Frieza is arguably the most evil person ever in Dragon Ball. Now, there's an argument to be made, that of Kid Buu, but I have to say this. I don't think anyone is necessarily born evil. Well, besides Kid Buu. He's literally the embodiment of evil all throughout the universe, but that's beyond the point. Frieza himself, I believe, wasn't born evil. Now, was he born powerful? Yes. Was he born with mutant genes? Yes. Was he born basically to be in a position to rule over the universe? Yes. If you had power like that, it's very, very hard to say that you wouldn't try to take over the entire universe, especially with a father breathing down your neck, telling you not only how great and powerful you are, but that you will be the next ruler of the universe. Now, with that said, what would have happened if Frieza wasn't drilled with all of this kind of insanity, wasn't told that he would be the emperor of the universe in the very near future? What if King Cold wasn't necessarily a father to Frieza, but in fact King Cold was killed by Beerus early on, and well, Whis himself actually raised Frieza? You might be wondering, yeah, that doesn't really sound like something that would happen, and I agree, this is a what if, in fact, but imagine Beerus killing King Cold and ordering Whis to train Frieza because he no longer wants the burden of God of Destruction. He no longer wants the title of God of Destruction, and he wants to take time, relax, because he found a planet nearby that makes not only amazing food, but would absolutely treasure him and make his life so much easier throughout this time. He tells Whis that he needs to find a true successor, somebody that can truly be the next God of Destruction, and he chooses the one and only Frieza, a mutant being that was born with extraordinary power, and all he needed was a tiny bit of training to unlock the potential that he was hiding deep within himself. And frankly enough, Frieza would scale greater than practically everyone in the universe besides a couple people. Obviously being that of Beerus and Whis, but also Majin Buu. So Beerus knew that this guy right here, Frieza, if he was trained by Whis, would exceed all expectations, would exceed all strengths, maybe even his own. So Beerus tells Whis that he's going to go to sleep, and when he wakes up, he expects Frieza to be ready to become the God of Destruction. Whis would begin not only raising Frieza, but also training him, unlocking potential that is unbound. We're talking about years on years on years Frieza would be training with Whis, and in terms of morality's sake, Whis would be teaching Frieza proper morals that would align perfectly in a God of Destruction, and also perfectly with his job next to the Kais. His job is destruction, but his job is also to cleanse the universe, basically make the universe proper and raise the mortal level. So Frieza would eventually be taught exactly how to do just that, exactly how to raise the mortal level. And it's not like Whis is telling him exactly how to do so. I mean, at the end of the day, Whis is kinda his caregiver in a way, but he knows not to step that boundary. He knows that yes, Beerus told him to raise Frieza into the perfect God of Destruction to replace him, but he also knows that he can't go overboard, because if he does, there's a good chance that he gets in trouble for it. As an angel, he must stay relatively neutral, so as long as he stays within his own boundaries, he'll be just fine. But he does bring Frieza later on in life, well, maybe 10, 20 years in, kind of showing him around, showing him planet to planet, what mortals look like, how they react, how they act. And of course, there is deep down inside that kind of, well, for layman's terms, racism within Frieza. Frieza does to an extent believe that he is greater than these mortals. And in a way, there's nothing wrong with believing he's greater than the mortals, because he is greater than the mortals. At the end of the day, the very end of the day, Frieza is greater than them. After about 20 years of training with Whis, his strength would be unparalleled, unprecedented. At the end of the day, we saw what Frieza could do in a matter of a couple months and in a matter of 10 years. Now stack godly ki on top of that, and we have a Frieza that is more or less unstoppable. And I wouldn't go too far into saying, oh, he'll catch up with Whis or the Angels and stuff like that, but that's not extremely far-fetched. We saw how strong not only Frieza got on his jump into Resurrection F, and also in the manga when he got his black form, but we also saw how strong God Ki made Goku and Vegeta, making them on a totally different level, and it made them so strong that they could even go toe-to-toe with God-like beings, being that of Beerus. Yes, I know that it was kind of retconned in terms of the whole 100% Super Saiyan God Goku versus 80% Beerus. And the way I kind of look at it is that 20% is a gap and a half. It's a gap that is kind of almost impossible to leap, but at the same time is still a pretty large margin, so large that it's a struggle to kind of reach over that said gap. And I call it a gap, but it's more like a canyon, maybe a universally sized canyon. But we're talking about a Frieza that is almighty, all-powerful, a mutant in training, someone that can gain power and strength rapidly at a speed that is unknown to many and still unknown to many. There's really no scaling Frieza's potential, his strength. We saw how strong he got in a matter of a couple months, and also compared to 10 years. Now, how are we going to follow that gap precisely and then add God Ki onto it? I'm not 100% sure, but a Frieza with God Ki, 20 years of training under the greatest martial artist alive, you would have to say he would eclipse Beerus very quickly. And luckily enough, they got him when he was young, because if he was still under the influence of the one and only King Cold, and also the influence of the idea that he is the Emperor of the universe, and that he has full and utter ability to dominate, conquer, and utilize everybody to his own whim, well, it wouldn't be a fun day for the universe, that's for sure. But luckily, Whis is there, the angel that is next to him, is there to teach him right from wrong, or at least to a certain extent. This would allow Frieza to judge what mortals should die, should live, and how he should change the universe. How he should change everything into making it that much better. Now, after a long time, Frieza would eventually see an awakened Beerus, and this little kind of fight wouldn't be necessarily a fight. Beerus would see that Frieza is lengths stronger than him. There is really no real reason to take on this fight, and yes, maybe he could land a single Hakai. Maybe he can somehow destroy him. But in my opinion, the strength gap would be so giant that Beerus would see no point in fighting this version of Frieza. He would probably and eventually decide to train Frieza in the art of destruction, giving him those abilities, and after all of that is said and done, he would step down, separate from Supreme Kai, and it would now be over for his reign as the god of destruction. He would then settle down somewhere else, somewhere with amazing food, and maybe somewhere that he's praised, and somewhere that he can enjoy his time. But we all know that with power like that, the god of destruction, or former god of destruction Beerus, will eventually get bored, will eventually, and maybe, want his throne back. So maybe this wasn't the best idea. Maybe it wasn't the best idea to allow a mutant like Frieza to have full reign of being the god of destruction, and have Whis raise your perfect replacement. Now, that is something for a totally another time, but now the question is, what would Frieza do with this reign as God of Destruction? I could see Frieza kind of taking parts of his army in terms of how he was in canon, kind of building up an army. He would build up kind of a crew of some sorts. Maybe a crew that is of pretty high mortal status, being that of a combination of strength and also good morality. He would take them and actually train them and utilize them in the act of making sure that mortals are in check, and also that mortals are gaining strength and they're being productive in the art of the universe. The universe itself and its mortal level isn't based on strength. Actually, not really based on strength at all. We've seen very, very strong universes, like Universe 7, be at the very bottom of the barrel. It's truly about cleansing the universe of the evil and the immoral, you could call it, and that's exactly what Frieza would approach doing. Maybe he would come across the Saiyans, a Saiyan race that is probably far more evolved now than it would in the normal canon, and also a Saiyan race that has been conquering planet after planet. But this version of Frieza that would get a hold of this Saiyan race would tell them that they now are protectors of planet, not conquerors. And anybody that decides that they don't want that to happen and that they don't want to be just that, well, then they're going to have to listen and go through him. And they're going to have to fight him for their true and utter freedom to do whatever they want. Some, like King Vegeta, may step up to the plate, thinking that they can defeat him. Scouter says Zero, that there is nothing there, but of course a Scouter, a mere machine, cannot see godly ki. So when King Vegeta steps up, he would be swiftly dealt with, maybe even killed, maybe even destroyed from all of existence. Frieza would remind the Saiyans once again that they are to be a tool for the universe, that the universe will help them and they will help this universe. Universe 7, and that is the universe they know of, being that Frieza actually now controls and kind of protects this universe entirely. Frieza would tell them that they will protect, serve, and they will help everyone from planet to planet. Peaceful planets will stay peaceful, and planets that are destructive and uncoordinated and all they do is fight and fight some more will be tamed, brought down to level, or eventually destroyed. Frieza makes this very clear with the Saiyans and makes it very clear that he will be back and will be back in full force. And he will check on them, make sure that they are good to go, and he'll even maybe consider taking a couple of the Saiyans himself to make them kind of these general commanders. Commanders that could follow suit in protecting and helping the universe. Frieza would kind of get his weirdly canon wish. His wish to rule over the universe, ironically enough, would still happen. But a Frieza that was raised by Whis and actually taught good and bad would be far different. Yes, he is controlling the universe. Yes, in a way he rules over it. But he rules over it far better than he would have normally. Instead of ruling it with an iron fist, he rules it with a helping hand. A hand that guides those who are kind of misguided and to guide those who are mistreated. Protect those who are innocent and destroy those who are full of hatred and also pursue darkness. Frieza follows the guidelines that we set out for him, and Beerus watches on as Frieza proves to be the best god of destruction they've ever seen. Frieza's strength is more powerful than every god of destruction you can possibly know, and Whis predicts that he could even eclipse into the realm of the angels if he so chooses. But it seems that this version of Frieza doesn't necessarily want to train. After the point of his strength being so far beyond the rest of the gods of destruction, well, it would be a decision that Frieza would make. A decision that he personally will choose to more or less hold back off of training. But let's just say, if Frieza one day would turn back his mind, would change the thoughts in his brain somehow to be canonically correct, the mindset that he had in the canon of Dragon Ball Z, Frieza may turn this entire universe into pure universal prison. A prison that shackles every planet alike. But for now, Frieza is one of the favorites of not only Zeno, but also the Grand Priest. The angels love to hear of a god of destruction being so active, and Zeno himself may even choose to allow Frieza to visit universe after universe to teach them the way of getting their mortal level higher and raising it even higher. Zeno loves to see a universe that is being productive and a universe that is striving to be greater and more self-sufficient. But with that said, that is the end of What If Frieza was raised by Whis. How do you think this would have went? Do you think the evil in Frieza's heart would have still been there and eventually a turn on everybody would ensue? How do you think, or how strong do you think a Frieza with godly ki would be? Well, let me know in the comment section below. How would you have done this what if? I'd love to hear it. And yeah, be nice in the comment section, as always. And hope all y'all enjoyed the video. And make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And that's it. Hope y'all have an amazing day. Later.